Welcome back, Business Beats podcast. We're here to talk real business, not just theory. So things that are happening in my companies today. So today we're diving into something every business owner thinks they've got under control, but most don't. So we're talking about lead and deal flow today. This is the lifeblood of your business. It's what separates companies that grow and those who just get by. So I'm going to break down exactly how we manage it, measure it, and turn your leads into predictable revenue, not just potential. All right, let's get into it. Okay, so here's what we're going to cover in today's episode. First, we'll define what lead and deal flow actually mean to your business and why most businesses confuse the two. Then we'll talk about speed, how response time alone can double your conversions. Super critical. We'll unpack the qualification process, the importance of clean pipelines, and why setting appointments is the number one action that drives sales. Finally, I'll walk through how to balance automation with human touch, track the right metrics, and keep momentum in your sales systems every single day. So let's start with the basics. What lead and deal flow really mean to your business and why getting this wrong can cost you. All right, so for one of my companies, I just put together this. So this is a document, right? And I think it's important to document everything. I document everything, right? There's an interesting page in here, which I think I found kind of funny, is the principles of the funnel. So I'll get to that shortly. So if we look at the foundation of lead flow and deal flow, right? So lead flow is pre-lead coming into the CRM. So we use HubSpot. So this whole document has been designed around how we set HubSpot up. We launched HubSpot in one of our training companies, which is a multi-million-dollar business. We launched it last Wednesday. So the goal was to iterate that out over the next 30 days with the sales team and have the sales team involved in that process. So we're in the process of doing that now. So pick a good CRM, by the way. I think before you even get to good deal flow and good lead flow, if you don't have the right technology, it's going to be very difficult to track anything. And sales is math and sales is metrics, right? Like if you really were to break it down, if you want to increase your revenue, your metrics have to be correct. So first and foremost, make sure you've got that right. So we're using HubSpot. It's a great CRM. But we've redesigned our lead flow and our deal flow. Right, so what is lead flow versus deal flow, right? So lead flow, so that comes first, right? Deal flow, that comes second. So let me talk about lead flow. Lead flow is when the lead comes from an advertisement into the CRM. So you actually don't have the deal created yet. It's just a lead. And why would you do that? The number one reason is you need to qualify. Super critical. 3 exclamation marks there. Because you don't want to be creating deals in your CRM if the customer hasn't been qualified. How do you qualify the customer? Through a series of definitions through the funnel, right? So if I was going to break the sales funnel down into 3, because I love using funnels, I think it's really simple. At the moment, we're not at top, middle, or bottom of the funnel. So you might rank them. So you might go, I have this thing about 75%, 50%, and 10%. So how do you qualify a lead at 75, 50, and 10? There's a whole bunch of different ways you can do that, all right? So the first thing is, if I was to do that, you have to have the agent involved in that process, which is a series of questions. So my thing is, if I go to this, so this is the strategy that we created. You want to get the team involved in this, by the way. You need the sales manager involved in this. You need the agents involved in this. You need marketing involved in this. So you want to be quite collaborative about it. There's a couple of things, right? So we've just updated our lead flow. And how we do that is we make 2 determinations. The first determination is the product is the right fit for the client, right? So you want to make sure that when the lead comes through, that they've inquired about the right thing. Because they haven't, you have to recalibrate and you have to pivot them. Now, you might have to pivot them away from your business altogether because their goal is to get here and the product in which they've inquired about, in this case, is it's a diploma level course to get them to the next thing. We don't have it. So they inquired and they just wanted to get a call So they could inquire again over the phone with one of our agents to say, do you have this? We go, look, we don't actually work in that market. And then off they go, right? So that's part of the qualification process. The second thing we do is they have a clear need for the product that aligns with their goals and results. So is it the right product they've inquired about? And the second thing is, how does it help them? Does it align to their results or their goals? Like, those are the first two things. Do not qualify on value or price at this time, especially when they come into the top of the funnel, right? So if we go here, this is the top. Now we're talking about leads, right? We're not talking about deals yet. We're talking about leads. So you still have to qualify the lead to move them into a deal, all right? So we ask the questions in alignment with the result of the client, make sure that the product has been qualified and it is the right product, and then we can move them into a deal. So they can go straight over here. They now become a deal. So deal is confirmed. Great. All right. If they don't, what do you do with them? You have to move them over here. So they're disqualified. Now, when you move them into disqualified, there's a reason why you want to do that. Because you need to requalify them. Now, when you requalify them, that'll happen a couple of different ways. You'll use automation to do that. They may re-inquire, or your agent may call them. So you put them in a little box where if the agent needed to make some calls and get their call right up for the week, that they can go back and call those people. But you want to rank them. I always like the 75%, 50%, and 10%. So if I was to put them in disqualified, I still want to rank my client. So if I had to go back and call them and requalify them at maybe 3, 6, or 12 months later, if I needed to, I can search on these types of tags against those clients. I think it's really important. Otherwise, they will get lost. So I'll also add this. I think disqualification is more important than qualifying. Disqualification is more important than qualifying. Why? Let me show you. So if you were to look at your sales funnel, all right? Let's say we have top of the funnel, middle of the funnel, and we have bottom of the funnel, all right? So this is how a traditional sales funnel will work. Now, I've got a fun fact for you. Hey, this is going to be exciting. Check this out. So as I was putting together our strategy, I do everything in a manual, by the way. Everything that I do comes in a format like this. Then I can hand it to people, take it to meetings and flip through it and read it and make sure everyone's on track. So the principles of the funnel, all right? Check this out. So the origin, the sales funnel model was first introduced in 1898 by Elmo Lewis, an American advertising and sales pioneer. He created the AIDA model, attention, interest, desire, action, which became the foundation of the modern sales funnel. The sales funnel model is 125 plus years old and is still the primary model for sales in the 21st century. Interesting, right? It's 125 years old and still being used. Why? It's still being used because it's simple and it works and it's efficient. Sometimes the problem with creating lead flow and deal flow is that organizations, businesses, startups especially, make it too complex. This 3-stage funnel, well, it's actually a 4-stage funnel, I'll get to that shortly, simplifies the whole process for you. And what it does, it gives all your agents super focus on what they should be calling, what they should be closing, and where people are in their journey, right? There's a couple of super important things I'll get to shortly. But what I would say is that once the lead has been qualified, based on the 2 questions that we asked them, remember, is it the right product? Does it align to their goals? You would mark them and move them into a deal flow at a certain stage of the funnel. You should always put them into the top of the funnel, all right? Now we have automation that as soon as it's being qualified, it shoots straight here. And then your agent can move it to any stage that they want. Because what might happen through the qualification process, they might move it to the bottom of the funnel because the client's just, they've come in through a Google lead, they've done a whole bunch of research and they're ready to go. Or they're at the start of the journey, and your call to your team is the first piece of research that they're undertaking. So that's how you would classify it. And I just love a simple process of 75, 50, 10, right? In my mind, it just helps me, and I do it for Disqualified as well, and I keep it consistent across everything. So that's what we do. So the difference between the two, I'll go back to the original concept between lead flow and deal flow, is this has not been qualified and this has been qualified. And that's really the key difference. So it's really, really simple. So in your funnel, technically what you will have is you will have your lead flow here. Okay, I'll put a dotted line here, and then you'll have your funnel, top, middle, and bottom. Now, we have renamed that, right? And I'm going to get to that shortly. So I hope that makes sense, but these are two separate verticals. Understand that. So when you deploy it, whether you're using Salesforce, HubSpot, Zoho, or whatever it may be, golden rule, pick the best CRM that you can. Now, I understand that if you're in a startup, you won't be able to afford that because some of those CRM systems can be super expensive from a licensing perspective, and you might not have the revenue to do that in the startup. So, but you can use the principle. You don't need the technology in all instances, right? So if you're starting to advertise, you don't have a lot of people in your CRM, use a goddamn spreadsheet, but you can still deploy this principle in that spreadsheet, is what I'm saying. So I think it's super critical to get that right. What people normally do is they put everything into their deal flow, and then they start calling their deal flow. The problem with that is that they're wasting their time, because if you train your sales team to be closers, for example, high yielding closers, depending on, we sell on average of say a $5,000 product. I don't need my top performing guys qualifying people. Like, it's just a bit of a waste of time. So the concept of this, the cycle is that the lead flow would normally be managed by an SDR, right? Appointment setter, those types of people, and your closing senior team would be dealing with your deals. So these are two different salary caps, by the way. So you can look at that. If you were looking to invest in these two verticals, they're two different avatars, two different people, two different recruitment strategies, two different salaries, and two different commission schedules as well. So there's a big line that runs down the middle of these two, right? So the narrative of this episode today is just basically to define what these things look like. So I hope you get the lead flow. Super critical to get that right. What I'm going to do now is move on to deal flow. I need to rip this off.
Cool.
Can I do that?
Yeah.
Cool.
Go for it.
All right, so now I'm going to dive into deal flow. I'm also going to use a different colored pen, which is kind of weird and also kind of appropriate. All right, so just to backtrack a little bit. So we've got our deal. Our deal is here, right? And then up here, we're going to have our lead. Okay. I am now talking about the deal flow. Cool. Now, the other thing is that you want to have a system where leads and deals, where leads have a space over here for the agent to be able to have flexibility. I'm going to put agent flex. All of your agents, if you have a sales team, will want flexibility of lead, right? So what that means is they want a certain amount of control before they qualify it to be a deal. Like, you have to give them that. And the reason why I say that is that it doesn't matter, because if you were to measure them on deal flow and that's all you do not measure your agents on leads, ever. Like, we have been doing that for a long time. I've certainly learned that that's not the right way to do things. If I was to manage a team on metrics, I only need to look at deals, I never need to look at leads. However, you still need to give them flexibility, an agent flexible space for them to put all of their leads in, because what will happen is they'll move them to one place and then they'll want to move them back again. Why? Because people are inconsistent. You'll have a client that you've qualified, you put them in the bottom of the funnel because they said they wanted to get started. They actually lied to you, or their circumstances have changed. So you need to pull them out of your funnel. And I'm going to tell you why that is so critical to get right. And it's all based around metrics and conversion rates. So I'm going to dive directly into the lead funnel, right? So this is a sales funnel. This is super critical. This is what everything is all about. It's the big tick. Let me put a big tick there. There you go. It's the big tick, right? So let me read you a little bit of what I I define the sales funnel in terms of how we operate. So that's my funnel breakdown. I don't know if you can see that, but we might be able to zoom in on it.
Yeah.
So we have a lead stage, we have a top of the funnel, middle of the funnel, and a bottom of the funnel. So let me just put a big funnel here, all right? So here we have, and I'll put this in black, look at this multi-color, talented presentation. We have leads. The leads are unqualified. And I put a dotted line here. All right, nothing should get past that line, all right, unless it's qualified correctly on the two principles I said before, and it's not the price. The problem is people think qualification is about, are they a buyer? That is 100% incorrect. It is never about that at the start, right? It's about the need, the desire, the result, and the goal and the outcome, whatever you want to call it, for the customer. First, is it the right product? Will it help them move towards their goal? Whatever that means to them. If you've got that, the price becomes irrelevant. Why? Because the value increases. So you want to sell on value, but everything has to fit first, right? It's like Henry sitting behind the camera. I couldn't sell him a Lamborghini because he doesn't like Lamborghinis. You know what he likes? Toyota Prius.
Yeah.
That's the car he likes. Like that's number one. So I wouldn't qualify him. I'd put him back into nurturing, and maybe at some stage, 300 years in the future, he comes back to me and buys a Lamborghini, right? Because the Toyota Prius is no longer being manufactured.
What the hell is this? It's my car. It's a Prius.
Are they still making the Toyota Prius?
I feel like we're literally driving around in a...
Oh, they are? Okay, well, that's unfortunate. All right, so let's get back to this. So the lead is unqualified. You qualify the lead on the principles we discussed. We have top of the funnel, bottom of the funnel. Do it again. Here's how we run our funnel and how most people run their funnels. We have top of the funnel, middle of the funnel, and the bottom of the funnel. Now, you can call these different things, right? So this is framework. You can call them whatever you want. For us, we call it discovery, presentation, and close. So in the CRM, that's actually what they're called, but the principle is based on top, middle, and bottom. This is why, now this is so critical to get right, this is why you don't put unqualified leads into this section here. So critical. Why? Metrics. So critical. Your whole business is managed on metrics, right? So we're talking about how you deal with your sales revenue. So our sales funnel goes for 30 days. So our data tells us that a Google lead may close in 60, and under 30, and say a Meta lead will close in around 60 days. Our goal is to get it to 30 days, right? So we're pulling deals that are qualified into a 30-day pipeline. Why is that important? Why is that important? Think about it. Because this cannot go on forever, because your metrics will fall over. If your agents put unqualified leads in here without a time horizon, your metrics will make no sense long term, because your data will start to stack and duplicate, and you won't be able to get any solid conversions out of it. You won't know how to forecast accurately. So we protect the funnel. So we have to really train our team that if you put someone in the top of your funnel or at any stage in your funnel and they haven't been qualified, this is what happens. This becomes misleading. So if I was to go to, say Matt Damon's working for us, right? As one of our sales agents. He's not, but if he was. I could run a report on this and we could say that Matt has $1 million worth of sales here. He's got 890K here. And in his bottom of the funnel or in his closed funnel, he's got 250K. Now, if the top of the funnel is filled with unqualified leads, what happens? All of these numbers won't make sense. They won't come to fruition. So his conversion rate goes down. Why is that not good for Matt Damon? So it's not good for Matt Damon because in the lead distribution channel, right, which is your leads, he will get less. Why? Because his conversion rate has gone down. Well, that makes sense, Lawrence. You'd be surprised the amount of people that don't do that though. So let me run through it again. This whole funnel is based on metrics and sales revenue, and its time horizon is 30 days. You protect the qualification of leads to ensure that your agents only put in qualified leads based on 2 to 3 principles that you can determine, and it's never affordability, all right? You run your reporting based on each stage, and you can call them whatever you want. We call them discovery, presentation, and close. What you do is you get your gross sales, not payment plans or anything like that. I would focus on gross sales, all right? These are all gross numbers. You run your dashboards on each of these 1, 2, and 3 channels. They're all connected to a dashboard, right? So that's your master dashboard. Your conversion rate comes from your close, your bottom of the funnel, which affects your lead distribution. So that's how leads, I should learn how to spell leads, are distributed to your team. So that's a fair and equitable system. The only reason it won't work is if your agent puts unqualified leads into their funnel. That's the only reason it won't work. So if they're converting unqualified leads to deals, this will just fall over. And what they're doing is it should be self-perpetual. And what that means is if they do that, the byproduct of that is everything for them goes down and to the left instead of up and to the right. So the behavior, you want to design the system that reinforces positive and the right behavior for them to win. Because you want them to be successful. And then the company wins, they win, life is good, right? But the most important thing is I cannot get a lens and we cannot support an agent if what they're putting in here is no good. Because what happens is they're calling people that are never going to answer. They're booking appointments with people who will never answer or never purchase. Right? And remember, I said before that you can pull them out of this funnel as a qualified deal and put them back into leads. So you can disqualify them. You can do it manually. Well, you can do that in HubSpot. You can also do it in Salesforce. Or you just move them out of your funnel and let the automation bring them back. Right. And then, so the question is, well, how many people should I have in there and how do I know that I'm going to close them in 30 days? That's a good question. It's also kind of redundant. So there's a couple of things to consider. Remember that you're not qualifying them on affordability. I have this thing, right? I'm going to do this in black, multi-color episode, is that I have a 30 to 60 day window. And then there's a 90 plus, right? So if I had a client who said to me they could start within the month, they're definitely good for the funnel. If they said to me it's 1 to 2 months, they're still definitely in the funnel. Why? Because I know that the duration's not long enough for me to affect their decision. When it becomes 3 months more, it becomes a challenge because that's a long way away. So I would disqualify those people. Now, I would hang on to them, so I would put them back into my qualifying section. And I would work with them, and maybe with a little bit of work, some automation, I'll turn 90 days into 60 days. In a human's mind, a 90-day term is a long way away and they don't need to worry about it. A 30-day term is very close, considering that time moves quickly, right, for people in the 21st century. So my definition of how to deal with this funnel is that if I'm qualifying them and I think I can close them, or they say to me, I'm not ready to get started in 2 months, I'm putting them in the top, right? If they say to me, I'm ready to get started next week, so the close is 30 days, you put them straight in the bottom. If they're considering it, so they're 50-50, right? So they're right in the middle, 50-50, they're not 75%, they're 50-50, drop them straight in the middle of the funnel and let the funnel do the work. Because when you walk in, what this does is it gives you focus. Each area you get to focus on. So the first thing I would do if I was an agent, and I used to be many, many years ago back in the 1930s, is that I would come in and call my new leads and then go straight to what's my bottom of the funnel. Like, what am I closing today or this week, right? So this is where my income comes from, is in this section. Now, if I have a dashboard, and everyone will have a dashboard, I could walk in and tell you exactly what I'll earn that month. The company can tell exactly how much gross sales revenue they'll generate. And you know how many Lamborghinis you can buy, right? You just do. That's why that has to be accurate. That's why you always protect it. So you have to put this wall up. And when you qualify leads to the nth degree, but always leave affordability out. I've had people in my funnel who go, oh, look, I can't afford it, but I really, really want to do it. I put them in the top of the funnel and I close them in 30 days, right? Because I can find a solution for them. Like, if you have payment plans and all those other things, like you get all these points of leverage, right? So I think that's super critical. Let's take this off now. The last part to this app is categories, right? Thinking about how do you qualify people and what algorithm are you going to use to do that? You have to have definitions for the team. They need to be very consistent. You want to have fewer than more and keep everything simple, right? That's why the funnel is designed to really have a lead qualification space and then just, discovery, presentation and close. Call it whatever you want. That's why you just want to keep it super simple. So what we do for disqualification, I'll run through that first, is we have 8 disqualification metrics that we can help classify and run reporting of. So remember, when they go into unqualified or disqualified, you still need to run reporting on that because it tells you a bit of a story. It tells you whether your marketing's firing. Why? Because we have a whole bunch of people who are in this category who are getting moved into disqualified sooner than this other avatar, right? So it helps you look at the business and advertising campaigns with a certain amount of intelligence. Right? Otherwise, you're Bambi walking through the forest, right? You're just about to walk off the cliff. Can we show an image of a...
You want to do that? Sure.
Yeah, can we do that? Bambi walking off the cliff, right? And just like that. So I've designed these. Well, I've designed these with the sales manager and marketing people. So we have disqualified reasons. Number 1, no contact. What does that mean? Well, you tried to call them, they don't answer. You SMS them, they don't reply. You email them, they don't reply. You leave a message, they don't call you back, or they don't answer their phone in general, right? So that's no contact. Now, my take on that is I would allow my agents to do that for 10 days and no longer, and then I would pull that lead off them. Now, they are going to want to hold on to that lead, right? Like they just want to. It's hard for them to let it go. So you have to really train them that it's in their benefit to let it go because it gets their time focused on those people who want to buy. So, that scarcity mindset is something that you have to overcome if you have that in your team. Second thing is affordability. Can they afford it? Can they not afford it? So you've moved them through the funnel and you actually get to the close and the point where there's no way that they can afford to buy it, even on the cheapest payment plan. You have to move them on. You sort of can't help them, which is unfortunate. But they may come back, right? That's what nurturing's for. Number 3, timing. So the timing's not right. So my definition was if they were 30 to 60 days, I put them in the funnel. If they're 90 days, I'm really considering whether I should do that, whether that's a smart move for me, because I do not want to be calling a 90-day prospect 15 times in 30 days and waste my time. It's no good for them. It's no good for you. It's no good for the company. So you really have to consider that. The other one is competitor. They've purchased somewhere else with a competitor. I like to understand why they did that and put the notes in there because, especially with an education product, the data tells us they buy 2 to 3 in their adult lifetime. So you don't want to be the business that sells them one thing and then just keeps moving on, right? It's like building the first level, knocking it down, and then building it again. Where you should be building a second level. Like that's super critical to understand. I've got funding here that might not apply to you. Like we have some government funding that's sometimes hard to contend with. No harm, no foul. I'll leave that out. Not on scope. That means it's a product that they want that we don't have. Hens wants to buy a Toyota Prius. I don't sell Priuses. I only sell Lamborghinis and Ferraris. So, I can't help them. I'll get him to call the local Toyota dealership. The other one is duplicate. You know what that means. It's in there twice. You have to get rid of one. And one is wrong details. So you do get spam. Things come through your pipeline, you know, it's just sort of bogus. So you have to get rid of that. So those are so we have 8 disqualified verticals that we put into the CRM that the agents can use that we can run reporting on. You know, I like the timing and affordability one. Like, it'd be great to sit there in 3 months and go, oh, how many people said that they couldn't afford it? And just run that report and just look at that metric, right? Which is pretty good. So in a simple format, that's basically our whole deal flow there. In a simple table like that, that will run our whole sales function, right? We should blur that out, dude, as well.
Blur it out?
Yeah. Right, so they got qualified. So the lead is 1, qualifying. 2, qualified. Okay. And the last one is disqualified. So those are our 3 stages in terms of lead flow. Right? In terms of deal flow, we have top, we go 1, which equals discovery. 2, we have middle of the funnel, which equals presentation. And then we have 3, we have the bottom of the funnel, which equals close. So at any stage, this can move into here, right? Or move back into here. You can just move it all around. So the agents who work here in the qualification process have unlimited options. And in the deal flow, they have 30 days to close it. And this is where we measure them, which is their KPI or KRAs, whatever you want to call them. So we call them key performance indicators. So that's how we run the whole business, right? That's how a lot of companies run their whole business. It's super simple. So I hope that helped. So my advice, click on the link in the description. What we'll do is we'll send you this whole breakdown on a simple fact sheet that you can easily read and execute in your business right now. And we're going to give that to you for free. We do ask a favor though. We'd love it if you subscribe to the channel. We're trying to give away as much value as we possibly can. Everything we give away at this time is for free. We don't charge for it. So we'd really appreciate the support. Thank you for joining. It's been good to run through this today. And we'll see you next time.